Hello and welcome to Tech for Non-Techies, the only podcast that demystifies the fast-growing technology sector. I'm your host, Sophia Matveeva, Chicago-based MBA and tech entrepreneur. My aim here is to give you the skills, knowledge and confidence to find opportunities in the tech sector, whether that's through founding a company, getting a dream job, or bringing a fresh perspective to your work. Hello, smart people. How are you today? My news is that I have finished the first draft of my book, The Non-Technical Founder's Introduction to Tech. We still have to go through the editing process before we get to publishing, but the heavy intellectual lifting is done. And you know what? Writing a book is hard. I thought that the creating of the content was going to be the difficult thing because the book is about making complicated concepts about technology accessible to everybody. And that does take some thinking and experimenting from me. But that comes fairly easily to me. The hard thing is literally just turning up every day and working on it when you don't feel like it. So sometimes you want to write and it just comes super easily. And sometimes you just want to stare at the wall instead or watch some Netflix or whatever. But you still have to turn up. But I think that's just the human condition and being an adult. And you know what? After months of doing this, I can tell you, I just deteriorated into some sort of writer beast. When I finished writing the last chapter, I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, fuck. I really do look like I've just had an orgy in a pub car park. I was looking at myself with a mix of horror and pride. It took me a few days to come to, and now I'm on to the editing bit, but I don't know how long that's going to take. So I wanted to share something from the book with you because I don't know when you'll actually be able to get your hands on it. And what I wanted to share with you is this. The people who are coming to dominate today's tech companies have a different skill set to those that came before them. And those skills tend to be less focused on technology. Obviously, for the listeners of this podcast, this is fantastic news. As I said in the book, the hemlines for skirts are not the only thing to be dictated by fashion. So is the experience of tech executives. The developer-turned-entrepreneur was the trend of the 1990s and the couple of decades that followed. The notable successes of Facebook and Microsoft, which were both founded by developers, led to imitations of that career path. Every VC was hunting the next Harvard dropout developer-turned-entrepreneur because that's what Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg are. Since success begets success, Silicon Valley became obsessed with engineers, and everyone else took second place as the serving class. The thinking went that in order to build a technology company, you must know how to build it from scratch, which, to be honest, for the time did actually make some sense. It is easy to assume that this is just the way it must be. The tide is turning, though, but I want you to know that we have already had counterexamples to this, even from earlier years. So before we talk about today, I want to show you something. Silicon Valley tech firms have changed our lives in the Western world, but if you look at what was happening in China, which is another huge internet market, you will see a different example. Jack Ma is one of my favorite tech founders. If you haven't looked him up or you haven't read about him, do so. He is a really, really just fascinating character. He founded Alibaba, which is one of the largest tech companies in the world. He began his career as an English teacher, and he didn't see his first computer until he was in his 30s. Let me say that to you again. He is a non-technical founder. He began his career as an English teacher and didn't see a computer until he was an adult, not a college dropout. This is in contrast to other Chinese tech billionaires. I don't want you to think that, in China, it's just, non-technical founders rule. There are Chinese tech billionaires who started their careers as engineers? Yes, frankly, as actually most of them. So, for example, Pony Ma, the founder of Tencent, which is Asia's most valuable company, studied computer science and began his career as a coder. And so did the majority of Chinese tech billionaires today. But Jack Ma is a very famous, very successful example of the opposite. I believe that having this dichotomy is healthy for the economy, for education, and for the populace as a whole. Talented communicators who have no interest in coding can get inspired by Jack, and talented coders can look to Pony. The fashion in the West is changing too. If you look at the new guard of the Silicon Valley tech elite, they tend to have design backgrounds. The founders of Airbnb were designers, and Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snap, studied product design rather than computer science at Stanford. This is interesting, and I want you to think about this. What do we know about design? Good design is always focused on understanding the user and the problem the user is facing. Good designers are focused on the user. They think about the person first, not the product. Remember what a product is in the first place? A product is a solution to a problem that someone is experiencing. I go into that in the What is a Product episode, so if you haven't listened to it, go back after this episode. It is a foundational concept. In today's innovation economy, the emphasis on coding is declining, especially in consumer-facing businesses, because many of the engineering problems that they're solving have already been solved. Now, I'm not saying that this does not require any work at all and that engineers are all just coasting or that you don't need to hire engineers. What I am saying is that it's just not as hard as it used to be. For example, content algorithms used to be frontier technologies. They are not anymore. Today's tech businesses must stand out for their easy-to-use products, marketing new, and solid business sense. This is true for consumer and B2B businesses. So, for example, Xero is an accounting software I use for my business, and Xero markets itself for its easy-to-use design. I mean, accounting is already a pretty boring and unpleasant task, at least for me. So then if you have a software that makes it harder for you, I don't know, just put needles in my eyes. Anyway, we're now used to apps that we can understand within a few seconds. And while we are willing to learn about new products have to grab our attention. You're probably not a UX designer and you might not even know what that is. I didn't know that UX design was a thing when I started my transition into tech. That's fine. If you don't know what user experience design is, go into the back catalogue of this podcast, and there are lots of introductory episodes on design for technology. I want you to know also that I'm not saying that you need to retrain as a UX designer. What I am saying is that the new breed of successful tech companies today value people who have a strong understanding of the user, not only people who are very good engineers. And having a strong understanding of the user is something you absolutely can and should have, whether you're a founder, whether you're a product manager, whether you're an investor, or you want to work in product marketing. Whatever product you're working on or thinking of investing in, make sure to spend time understanding who the user is and what problem they're experiencing. Literally, this is the key skill driving tech successes today. Yes, in a tech company, obviously you need engineers and data scientists. That will always be important. But unless designers create products that people want to use, brilliant code is not going to help you. So if you want to succeed in tech, either as a founder, an investor, or an innovator in a company, you have to understand who the target users of your product are and what problems they're facing. Literally, that's the skill that's needed today. After you understand the human who uses the product, then your next step is learn how to work with product teams to turn your insights into an app or a site or an algorithm. Too many people go straight to the tech bit without actually focusing on understanding the user. So, for example, if you're an investor and a founder comes to you with an idea and they haven't yet studied the user, but they just want to build an app, my friends, beware. I see this happening quite a lot, and I always say to people, study the user, study the human who you would want to use the product, and then start thinking about the product that you would build as a solution to that problem. There is no point of learning what engineers do unless you learn how to think about the users first. This is why on my course, the Intro to Tech for Non-Technical Founders, we learn how to study users before we learn how to talk to engineers. We do learn how to speak to engineers and what they do, but that always has to come secondary to understanding the users. My task for you this week is to get nosy. Begin thinking like a designer researching an idea. Study people. Understand what they want. I think this is so fascinating. Once you do that, then you'll be able to see what products those people need, and after that, you can find people to help you build those products. But that is always secondary to the very human skill of understanding your fellow Homo sapiens. Since this is a podcast for non-techies who want to succeed in the tech world, I really want this episode to give you hope that you don't need to completely retrain essentially the skills that you already have access to, which is understanding your fellow human beings. That is the skill that is becoming more and more treasured today. That is a skill that you can absolutely hone, literally starting from today. And it doesn't require you to take a year-long coding course. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. But what I'm saying is that if you understand users, if you understand humans, you can have a brilliant career in tech and be a non-techie. Now, my smart people, I have something to ask you. If you found this episode useful, which I really hope you did, then leave this podcast a rating and a review. That really will help more people discover it, which means that more people like you and me will widen their opportunities. And I think that will be a really good thing for the world. So if you want to do a good thing today, then leave a rating and a review and help somebody just like you discover this free learning material. And if this floats your boat and you want more, then come and join us as a member at Tech for Non-Techies. Our membership is literally your best friend in tech. Every week we have live sessions and masterclasses, and you also get monthly member meetups, Q&A with me, and learning notes on key aspects of technology like AI, product management, and the app economy. And most importantly, these learning notes are actually notes that you can understand as a non-techie, because that's the aim, right? So what's not to like? Basically nothing. Check us out on techfornontechies.co/membership. That's it for now, my dear smart people. Have a fabulous day, and I'll speak to you next week.